Men often go through life giving their attention freely without realizing the true weight of it. Attention is not just glances, conversations, or text messages. It is energy, it is validation, and it is the silent message that says, "You matter to me." Many men underestimate how much their attention means, while many women understand it perfectly and know how to manipulate it to their advantage. The truth is, attention is currency. It buys influence, it fuels attraction, and it builds power dynamics in relationships. The person who controls attention controls the pace of the connection. And when men are careless with theirs, they unknowingly surrender their leverage. The moment you realize your attention is a resource, the game changes forever. Think about this: the entire beauty industry thrives because of men's attention. Makeup, fashion, cosmetic surgery, all are indirectly tied to the need for validation from male eyes. Women don't spend hours getting ready just to feel good for themselves. They do it because attention gives them value in society. That is why when men look, when men comment, when men pursue, it fuels a sense of importance. But here's the twist: this value only exists when men keep giving it freely. When men start pulling back and offering attention only to those who earn it, they filter out manipulation. Suddenly, not every smile or curve is enough to distract them. That's when women realize that attention is not guaranteed. It is conditional. The mistake many men make is believing that their role is to constantly prove their interest, to reassure women through continuous attention. But this overexposure creates a lack of mystery, a lack of challenge, and eventually, a lack of respect. When a woman knows that you'll always text back, always compliment, always be available, she stops valuing it. Abundance kills appreciation. The men who are respected are not the ones who are always accessible. They are the ones whose attention feels earned. Just like you wouldn't throw money into the hands of anyone you meet, you shouldn't throw your attention at everyone who smiles at you. When it is scarce, it becomes powerful. When it is constant, it loses all meaning. What women don't want you to know is that attention is addictive. It works like a drug. The more they get, the more they crave, and the more they adjust their behavior to receive it. Social media thrives on this very concept. Likes, comments, follows, all serve as hits of validation. Men fuel this system without realizing that every like and comment is free attention given away. And while it costs you nothing, it shifts the balance of power. When you stop feeding that cycle, when you stop giving away attention like confetti, you stand out. You are no longer one of the countless men giving validation. You become the man whose focus is rare and therefore valuable. That rarity is what creates demand. It is no accident that the men women find most attractive are often those who don't easily give their attention. Think of the mysterious man at the party who doesn't chase, who doesn't flatter, who isn't desperate for recognition. His lack of effort makes every word he finally says feel significant. His attention is not a flood, it is a drop of water in a desert. That is why women compete for it. Because what is scarce becomes desirable. On the other hand, the man who tries too hard, who throws his attention everywhere, becomes invisible. His value diminishes because he has nothing left to protect. Once men realize that attention has to be guarded, they step into a level of control most women fear. Attention also dictates emotional dynamics. The person giving more attention is often the one more invested, while the one receiving becomes the one in control. Women know this instinctively. That is why they test how much you'll chase, how quickly you'll respond, how desperately you'll seek them out. Each reaction gives them a measure of your value. If you are quick to give, they assume you are easy to win. But if you hold back, if you let her wonder, if you let her earn it, she recognizes your worth. This is not about manipulation, it is about balance. Relationships thrive when attention is exchanged fairly, not when it flows in one direction like an open faucet. Imagine a world where men collectively understood this power, where instead of seeking validation from women, they valued their own time, focus, and emotional energy. Women would no longer control the dynamics with beauty alone. Instead, they would have to bring more to the table: character, loyalty, respect, and effort. Because beauty fades, but genuine qualities last. The finish line for women is not in losing attraction, but in being forced to match the value men create once they realize their attention is gold. A man who knows this stops being desperate. He becomes selective, intentional, and powerful. The reason women often dominate early interactions is because men walk into them blind to their own leverage. They don't see that the one thing women crave more than money or gifts is focused attention. If men understood this, they would stop overspending on dates, overextending themselves in conversations, and overcommitting to people who haven't earned it. They would learn to lead with presence, not pressure. They would understand that the very act of being less available creates attraction. It is not about ignoring women. It is about valuing yourself enough not to overinvest. That's the shift. That's the awareness that changes everything. When you know the worth of your attention, you start treating it like a filter. It screens out those who are with you for superficial reasons and highlights those who genuinely care. A woman who respects you will respect the fact that your attention isn't free. She will work to keep it, not take it for granted. But a woman who is only there for validation will disappear the moment she doesn't get her fix. That is not a loss, it is clarity. By valuing your attention, you discover who is truly valuable to you. And that awareness is the ultimate strength. Would you like me to now expand Keynote 2 in the same format, 900 words, 10-line paragraphs, Jessica Opare's bold tone, so it matches this one? Here's the expanded version of Keynote 2. Detachment is a superpower in Jessica Opare's commanding and unapologetic tone. It is 900 words, with each paragraph written in 10 lines, just like you requested. Detachment is the weapon men don't realize they need until they've been burned. It is not about being cold, heartless, or unfeeling. It is about control, discipline, and mastery of self. When you're detached, you don't allow every word, every mood, and every test to dictate your behavior. You observe, you assess, and you decide whether something is worth your energy. Too many men give away their peace by overreacting, by chasing after every slight, and by constantly trying to prove themselves. Detachment stops that cycle. It creates distance between you and manipulation. And once you learn it, you become unpredictable in the best way possible. A detached man doesn't get dragged into emotional games. When she delays her reply on purpose, he doesn't panic. When she throws a tantrum to test his reaction, he doesn't flinch. When she tries to provoke jealousy, he doesn't spiral into insecurity. Instead, he sees it for what it is: a test, a pull for control, a way to measure his strength. And because he is detached, he doesn't hand over his power. That calm, that stillness, that ability to not be easily shaken is what commands respect. Women don't respect men who are easily swayed. They respect men who stand firm, who are steady, who can't be controlled by temporary emotions. Detachment gives you the upper hand because it flips the script. Most men are reactive. They're quick to text back, quick to defend themselves, quick to please. That predictability makes them easy to manipulate. But a detached man is different. His silence makes her question herself. His calmness makes her rethink her approach. His patience creates mystery. And mystery is powerful because people are drawn to what they cannot fully figure out. The man who reacts to everything gives himself away. The man who doesn't react to anything keeps his value hidden, and that makes him magnetic. One of the most misunderstood parts of detachment is that people assume it means indifference. But indifference is coldness, a refusal to care at all, while detachment is the ability to care without losing yourself. You can love someone deeply and still be detached enough not to tolerate disrespect. You can be invested and still be detached enough not to overact when things don't go your way. That balance is where true strength lies. It's not about shutting down your heart, it's about guarding your peace. A man who can feel without being ruled by his feelings is a man who is in complete control. Detachment also forces respect because it removes the fear of loss. Most women expect men to cling, to beg, to chase at the slightest sign of distance. But when a man is detached, he doesn't fear her walking away. He knows that his value does not come from her presence, but from who he is. That knowledge makes him unshakable. When she threatens to leave, he doesn't crumble. He lets her go. When she pulls back, he doesn't chase. He steps back too. That is terrifying to women who rely on control because they realize they cannot trap him. His freedom becomes his strength, and his lack of fear makes him untouchable. When you master detachment, you stop being needy. You stop begging for time, attention, and affection. You stop overextending yourself for people who haven't earned it. Instead, you stand firm in your value and allow others to rise to meet you. This is what separates boys from men. Boys crave attention, validation, and constant reassurance. Men, on the other hand, know that their worth is not defined by who stays or who leaves. They know they bring value to any situation, and because of that, they never chase, they attract. And that attraction is a byproduct of their detachment. The interesting thing about detachment is that it often creates the exact results men want. The man who doesn't react instantly becomes more attractive. The man who doesn't chase instantly becomes more mysterious. The man who doesn't crumble under pressure instantly becomes more respected. Detachment creates polarity. It forces the other person to lean in, to wonder, to question, to seek. When you're detached, you're not desperate for connection, and that lack of desperation makes connection come to you. Women notice it. They feel it. And they can't resist the energy of a man who doesn't need them but chooses them. Another layer of detachment is patience. When you're detached, you're not in a rush to prove yourself. You can wait. You can hold silence. You can allow space to do the work for you. Most men panic in silence. They fear being forgotten, replaced, or ignored. But a detached man knows silence is often more powerful than words. His ability to hold space creates tension, and tension builds attraction. Women lean into men who aren't always available, who don't always respond immediately, who aren't always at their beck and call. That scarcity of attention, born out of detachment, makes everything he does give feel more valuable. Detachment is also about choice. It gives you the freedom to decide what deserves your focus and what doesn't. Not every argument needs your energy. Not every disrespect deserves your reaction. Not every woman is worth your time. When you're detached, you filter the noise and move only for what matters. That level of control makes you powerful because it shows you're not driven by impulse but by principle. And when people see that you cannot be swayed easily, they respect you more. Detachment teaches you that not everything is worth fighting for, but your peace and your value always are. In the end, detachment is the secret tool that separates men who are controlled from men who are in control. It's not about withholding love, it's about protecting yourself from being drained. It's not about being emotionless, it's about being emotionally intelligent. Detachment keeps you steady when the world tries to pull you apart. It keeps you calm when manipulation tries to shake you. And it keeps you powerful when desperation tries to weaken you. Men who master detachment don't just survive in relationships, they thrive. Because they are not controlled by external chaos. They move with strength, clarity, and unshakable confidence. Do you want me to now expand Keynote 3 in the same 900-word, 10-line paragraph format to keep the series consistent? Here's the expanded version of Keynote 3, The Scarcity of True Masculinity in Jessica Opare's unapologetic, commanding, and motivational style. It is 900 words, with each paragraph crafted into 10 lines as you requested. True masculinity is becoming one of the rarest resources in the modern world. We live in a time where discipline, leadership, and strength are being diluted, where men are encouraged to be soft in all the wrong ways and strong in none of the right ones. This is why women are constantly searching but rarely finding what they claim to want. They meet men who fold under pressure, men who lack confidence, men who cannot provide direction. But when a man steps into his true masculine energy, he instantly becomes rare, and scarcity always increases value. Once men realize that true masculinity is uncommon, they will stop undervaluing themselves and start walking like kings among a sea of boys pretending to be men. Masculinity is not about being loud, aggressive, or dominant without purpose. It is about structure, presence, and certainty. A masculine man is disciplined with his emotions. He does not erupt at every challenge, nor does he crumble under pressure. He knows how to set boundaries, how to say no without fear, and how to lead without arrogance. This type of man is magnetic because women recognize the stability he offers. In a world full of chaos, a man who is centered becomes a lighthouse. But because so many men fail to cultivate these qualities, the ones who do instantly stand apart. Their scarcity is their advantage, and their strength is their leverage. The tragedy is that too many men have forgotten what it means to be rare. They believe their value lies in chasing, in proving, in begging for attention. They hand over their time, money, and energy because they think women hold all the power. But women are drawn to what is difficult to find, not what is always available. Diamonds are treasured because they are scarce. Gold is valuable because it is rare. Masculinity, when lived authentically, is exactly the same. A man who embodies self-respect, discipline, and purpose is not easily replaced. And the truth is, women will always compete harder for a man they cannot find everywhere. The scarcity of masculinity is not just about dating. It is about leadership in every area of life. In business, in communities, and in families, the absence of true masculine presence leaves gaps. People crave direction, they crave stability, and they crave confidence. Men who develop these traits instantly rise above the noise. They are the ones others look to in moments of uncertainty. And because they are so rare, their influence multiplies. Once men recognize that society has lowered its standards, they will understand that raising theirs automatically gives them the edge. Scarcity is power, and masculinity is the rarest form of it today. Women feel the scarcity deeply, even when they won't admit it. They constantly talk about wanting a man who is strong, protective, decisive. But most of what they encounter are men who lack these qualities. They settle for what they can get, but the longing remains. And when they meet a man who embodies those rare traits, they cannot ignore him. His presence lingers. His discipline intrigues. His boundaries attract. This is why once men learn how scarce real masculinity is, they stop lowering themselves to gain approval. They start to see that they are the prize because they offer what cannot easily be found. Scarcity also creates choice. A man who recognizes his rarity does not have to settle for less. He doesn't need to beg for love because he knows his worth commands it. He doesn't need to chase attention because attention comes to him. This is why women invest more in men who are scarce. They sense his value and they fear losing it. And that fear makes them work harder to keep him. A man who knows this doesn't become arrogant. He becomes selective. He doesn't waste his time where it isn't appreciated. Instead, he invests where effort is reciprocated. That is the power of being rare. What makes masculinity scarce is not just discipline and strength, but consistency. Many men can act masculine for a moment, but few can live it as a lifestyle. A man who is consistent in his values, consistent in his actions, and consistent in his self-respect is unshakable. Women test men constantly to see if they will break, but the masculine man doesn't bend to every wind. He stands firm, and that firmness is rare. Scarcity is not about pretending. It's about becoming so steady that no test, no game, and no pressure can undo you. That steadiness is irresistible because it is nearly impossible to find. Scarcity also demands growth. A man cannot claim to be rare if he refuses to improve. Masculinity is not stagnant. It thrives in challenge, it thrives in discipline, it thrives in progress. A man who constantly sharpens his mind, strengthens his body, and deepens his spirit becomes rare because he does what most won't. Most men settle, but he keeps rising. Most men give up, but he keeps building. That alone makes him scarce. And the rarer he becomes, the more valuable his presence is. Women notice, the world notices. And his confidence grows because he knows his worth is not ordinary. The final truth about scarcity is this: women will always chase what is hard to replace. Once men understand that true masculinity is in short supply, they will no longer undervalue themselves. They will no longer chase validation because they will know they are the validation. They will no longer compete for attention because they will know their presence already demands it. Masculinity is not about controlling women. It's about controlling yourself. And when you control yourself in a world where most men cannot, you instantly become the rarest man in the room. Scarcity is not weakness. Scarcity is the ultimate strength. And masculinity, when owned fully, finishes the game before it even begins. Would you like me to continue with Keynote 4, The Trap of Validation, in the same 900-word, 10-line paragraph style so the flow of this motivational speech stays consistent? Here's the expanded version of Keynote 4, The Trap of Validation, in Jessica Opar's bold, unapologetic style. It is 900 words with every paragraph written in 10 lines, just as you requested. Validation is the oxygen many women breathe, and most men do not realize how deeply this shapes the dynamics of attraction. From the moment a woman wakes up and checks her phone for likes, comments, or messages, she is seeking external confirmation of her worth. Men fuel this system unknowingly by giving constant compliments, chasing relentlessly, and flooding her with attention. While it may feel harmless, every word of praise, every like, every pursuit is a form of validation. And validation, when given freely, becomes addictive. The more she gets, the more she expects, and the more control she holds. The trap lies in men not realizing that their validation is the very fuel that powers manipulation. Validation is powerful because it shifts balance. The one giving it becomes the one invested, while the one receiving it becomes the one in control. A woman who is constantly showered with attention begins to believe she is the prize, even if she brings nothing beyond looks to the table. Men, blinded by desire, hand over compliments and gestures without thought. They believe validation will win love, but in reality it reduces value. When something is always available, it loses meaning. A man's validation becomes worthless when it is predictable, constant, and given without standards. That is why women test men who over-validate. They know his words come cheap. The modern world has made validation more accessible than ever before. Social media has turned it into a marketplace, with women competing not just for men's attention but for the collective gaze of thousands. Pictures, filters, captions, and poses, all designed to pull in more validation. And men line up to provide it. Each like, each fire emoji, each thirsty comment is a drop of attention added to her ego. But what happens when one man chooses not to participate? What happens when one man withholds validation until it is earned? He stands out. He becomes the outlier, the one she can't ignore. His silence is louder than all the noise. Men often believe that constant validation makes a woman feel secure, but in reality it makes her entitled. She begins to expect it, not respect it. She starts to feel that your role is to feed her ego, not to evaluate her character. And once she feels entitled, she devalues both the man and the validation he provides. This is why women tend to chase men who give less, because the less he gives, the more valuable it becomes. Scarcity creates value, and when your validation is scarce, it commands attention. Women do not chase what they already have in abundance. They chase what they fear losing. The trap is most dangerous because validation feels good to give. Men feel strong when they compliment. They feel connected when they chase, and they feel admired when they overextend. But in truth, they are draining themselves while building someone else's ego. The cycle continues until the woman has all the power and the man has none. She can withhold affection because she knows he will double his efforts. She can disrespect boundaries because she knows he craves her approval. And all of it is built on one simple fact: he has not realized his validation is valuable. He is giving away gold as if it were sand. When a man learns to control his validation, everything changes. He doesn't stop giving it completely. He becomes intentional with it. He doesn't compliment every picture, but when he does, it lands with impact. He doesn't praise every move, but when he acknowledges effort, it feels rewarding. This balance creates a shift. The woman begins to recognize that his validation is not free, it is earned. And because it is earned, it is respected. She no longer sees him as another source of ego fuel, but as a man whose attention has weight. That weight changes how she views him, and that change is what rebalances the dynamic. The truth is, women crave validation not just for beauty, but for security. They want to feel desired, noticed, and valued. But when it comes too easily, it stops providing security and starts providing boredom. Women will never admit this openly, but they lose interest in men who worship them endlessly. The men they chase are the ones who create tension by not overgiving. The trap of validation is that most men never see this. They believe giving more will earn more love. But in reality, Giving less earns more respect. Respect is what keeps attraction alive, and respect is born when validation is controlled. Every man must realize that his validation is a currency in relationships. If he gives it away too freely, it becomes worthless. But when he uses it wisely, it builds investment. A woman who wants your validation will work harder for it. She will dress better, act better, and respect you more because she knows it is not guaranteed. That's the key. Women value what they earn, not what they are handed. If she earns your validation, she treasures it. If she gets it without effort, she discards it. Men who grasp this stop playing into the trap and start mastering the exchange. The ultimate freedom comes when men step out of the validation game altogether. When they no longer seek to buy affection with compliments or win attention with constant pursuit, they reclaim their power. Women cannot manipulate a man who does not need to validate to feel worthy. His worth comes from within, and because of that, his attention becomes priceless. He no longer wastes it on those who drain him, but offers it to those who truly deserve it. And that is when the trap collapses. Because the moment a man values his validation, every game built on it falls apart. Would you like me to now expand Keynote 5, the freedom of walking away, in the same 900-word, 10-line paragraph style so your full series is complete? Here's the expanded version of Keynote 5, the freedom of walking away, in Jessica Opare's bold and captivating style. It is 900 words with every paragraph written in 10 lines, exactly as you requested. The greatest power a man holds is the power to walk away. It sounds simple, but it is the one choice that instantly shifts the balance of every relationship dynamic. Most women assume men will never leave, that no matter what they do, he will stay, beg, compromise, or try harder. But the moment a man realizes he loses nothing by walking away, he becomes untouchable. That freedom scares women because it means their usual tactics, tests, manipulation, or withholding affection no longer work. A man who can walk away is a man who cannot be controlled. And once he owns this truth, he steps into a position of undeniable strength. Walking away is not about anger or resentment. It is about clarity. It is about understanding that your peace, dignity, and self-respect matter more than someone else's approval. Too many men stay in situations that drain them because they fear being alone, but the fear of being alone is what traps them. When you know that solitude is better than disrespect, you unlock true freedom. A woman cannot control a man who values himself more than he values her validation. That kind of man doesn't beg for love. He attracts it naturally. And when it is not given, he doesn't force it. He simply walks away. The fear of losing a woman keeps many men chained to toxic dynamics. They tolerate disrespect, manipulation, and inconsistency because they believe leaving means losing. But in truth, staying in the wrong place is the real loss. Every moment spent in a situation where your value isn't recognized is a moment wasted. Walking away is not about loss. It is about investment. You invest in your own worth when you refuse to accept less than you deserve. Women sense this power immediately, and it changes how they treat you. They respect the man who can leave far more than the man who clings desperately to stay. The irony is that when you can walk away, you often don't have to. Women push boundaries because they assume men will fold. They test, they pull back, they demand more just to see how far they can go. But the man who shows he is unafraid to leave stops the test in its tracks. His willingness to walk away resets the standard. Suddenly, she knows she cannot push endlessly without consequence. That consequence is what keeps respect alive. And without respect, there is no attraction. Walking away is not about ending everything. It's about protecting the foundation of respect that makes everything possible. Walking away also breaks the cycle of neediness. A needy man clings because he believes a woman is his source of happiness. He ties his identity to her presence, and when she threatens to leave, he panics. But a man who has learned the art of detachment knows his happiness comes from within. He can love fully without losing himself, and that makes him powerful. When a woman knows you are not dependent on her, she cannot use that dependence against you. You become her equal, not her subordinate. And equality in relationships is born when both parties know the other can walk away. The freedom of walking away also creates choice. When you are not tied down by fear, you can decide with clarity who deserves your time and who doesn't. Too many men stay stuck in unhealthy relationships because they believe they have no options. But walking away opens doors you didn't see before. It creates space for better opportunities, healthier dynamics, and women who actually value what you bring. The man who refuses to walk away limits himself. The man who embraces it expands himself. Walking away is not the end of possibilities. It is the beginning of better ones. A man who can walk away also commands respect before he even has to. Women sense when a man is not desperate, when his presence is a choice and not a need. That kind of man carries himself differently. He speaks with confidence, sets boundaries clearly, and never lowers his standards just to keep someone. This energy is magnetic because it shows strength. Women chase strength because it provides security, and strength is not measured in how much you can tolerate, but in how easily you can leave what doesn't serve you. That is the mark of a man who knows his worth. Walking away is also a test of alignment. It shows you what a woman is truly made of. If you walk away and she doesn't care, you saved yourself from wasted investment. If you walk away and she suddenly respects you more, it means she was waiting to see if you had a backbone. Either way, walking away gives you clarity. It reveals the truth of the connection in a way that words never can. And that truth is priceless because it saves you from illusions. A man who can walk away never fears reality because he knows he can handle it. The ultimate beauty of walking away is that it keeps you free. It keeps you from being trapped in cycles of disrespect, manipulation, or self-betrayal. It keeps you aligned with your standards and values. Most importantly, it keeps you from losing yourself in the process of loving someone else. Love is powerful, but love without self-respect is slavery. Walking away ensures that you never lose your most important relationship, the one you have with yourself. And that relationship sets the tone for every other one in your life.